They completed their task, but they're stuck and they're being hunted. They're continuously being hunted. The NVA had special hunt teams, tracking teams, professional hunters, hunter trackers, and we're sitting back and we can't get them out. So around the fourth day, we tried to penetrate Laos. We couldn't. We couldn't get past Koh Rock when the weather was from the ground all the way up to, beyond 9,000 feet. Just couldn't get in. That was fourth day, fifth day, same thing. We got in a little further on the fifth day, but had to turn around and come back. And I got to tell you, we were getting severely depressed.
Welcome to Heroes Behind Headlines. I'm your host, Ralph Pizzullo. Today, we're going to continue our interview with Roger Lockshier, former helicopter crew chief of the Black Angel flight team of the 101st Aviation Battalion, 101st Airborne Division, during 1968, the deadliest year of the Vietnam War. He's going to relate more amazing stories from his excellent book, We Save SOG Souls, 101st Airborne Missions in Vietnam and Laos during the Vietnam War, including the most amazing helicopter rescue you've ever heard. It's my great honor to welcome back Bronze Star, Purple Heart, and two-time Distinguished Flying Cross recipient Roger Lockshier as today's hero behind the headlines.
Heroes Behind Headlines with Ralph Pizzullo.
This is all happening in 1968.
Yes.
When you get to the summer, when you get to June, you've been running missions like nonstop.
Nonstop.
And usually, I think you get R&R every 3 months, something like that, right?
No.
No, it didn't work that way. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
As far as maybe for married personnel,
Okay.
I'm only guessing.
Yeah.
But as far as I know,
Yeah.
it was only one R&R for your year tour.
Oh, wow. So your R&R is coming up.
Yeah.
And you had put into Australia.
Yes.
You end up going to Hong Kong instead.
Yep. I went on R&R late June, and I left to go on R&R. I had to go from Camp Eagle down to Benoit to our rear area, get my clothes and summer khakis.
Yeah.
And while I was down there, Steve Harper, and this guy Sherman Johnson, and Levi Reynolds and Skip O'Neill took a flight that I would have been flying.
Yeah.
They got shot down. They got banged up. Sherman got a broken leg. Harper got a lot of cuts and bruises. Nothing serious. Both the pilot and co-pilot were knocked out, but they all survived. Okay.
Yeah.
So I would have been on that flight. That would have been my normal flight.
Yeah.
My aircraft was in for major maintenance at the time. So anyway, went on R&R, came back, got back on the 4th of July by the time I got back up to Eagle. I was there, and it was mid-afternoon or so, maybe a little later. And I was scheduled to fly.
Yeah.
That was on the roster to get back into things. And my head wasn't in it. I mean, I just got back, and
yeah.
and it wasn't unusual for a crew chief or a door gunner to, if he didn't want to fly for whatever reason. I mean, it's always volunteer.
Yeah.
If for a reason to ask someone to take the flight for him, and the pilots did the same thing. I mean, it was no big deal. So I asked my friend Dave Emond, who was the only person in our unit from Connecticut. He only lived, 30 miles or so from where I lived.
Mm-hmm.
And if he would take the flight, now he was a short timer. He only had 30 days or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He said, yeah, he said, sure, he'd take it. So that evening, when they're getting ready to go out, they were going to go out on a Firefly mission after dark, you know.
Yeah.
So time for them to get on the flight line and head out. Dave, whose bunk was just a couple down from me on my right-hand side, Dave got up and he said, I guess it's time to go. And he started walking out of the tent up in Eagle, where we lived in tents.
Yeah.
And he stopped suddenly and he turned around and he was looking back and he was looking at me. And I thought, you know, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
And he didn't say anything. He just nodded his head and turned around and left.
Uh-huh.
So Steve got up. Steve, his bunk was right on my left side. Steve got up and he said, well, Chief, he said, if I'm going to die, I may as well die on my own ship. And he didn't talk like that.
Yeah.
He would tell me over and over, you got nothing to fear.
Yeah.
He said, because I'm going to protect you, and the gook that's going to kill me hasn't been born yet. You know.
Yeah. Very confident guy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and when he said that,
yeah.
I mean,
what a strange thing to say. Yeah.
what a strange thing to say.
Yeah.
And he left less than an hour later, 45 minutes later, while there was a big ceremony going on, 4th of July celebration going on at headquarters area, which was across the way from us. We had a little shallow valley where there were a couple of rice paddies and a berm up on the other side, and headquarters was over there. They were having a USO Christmas party over there, celebration. They had all lights on staging up and speakers up on staging and stuff like that, and loud music going and having a grand old time. And First Sergeant Wojcicki came to me, and he was walking fast, and he had a really serious look on his face. And he said, Chief, he said, your shift went down. And he said, Harper and Eamon and the 2 pilots are all dead.
Wow.
So that hurt. I mean, I could not believe it.
Yeah.
You know, so many things racing through my head. What have I done?
Sure.
I sent one of my best friends to his grave by asking him to take the flight for me. Here the music is blaring.
Yeah.
The contrast of realities was just, I mean, it was almost overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was outside of our tent, sitting on the ground, and I was just broke down.
Yeah.
And was just crying so hard. And it's so confused. And this music is blasting.
And people are celebrating and having a good time.
Celebrating and cheering over there.
Wow.
You know, and I just lost the best friend, my best friend in the world.
Yeah.
My partner.
Yeah.
One of my closest friends.
Yeah.
It was interesting that the outside of Dave Eamon, Steve, Skip O'Neill, Levi Reynolds, this was the first time they flew together since they got shot down just a couple of weeks earlier.
Mm-hmm.
First time they flew.
Wow.
And as it turns out, the fella that was supposed to be flying as the aircraft commander, a fellow by the name of Tom Woods, he asked Levi to take the flight for him.
Wow.
Because Tom was going on R&R the next morning. He asked Levi to take the flight for him.
Yeah.
Levi was one of the elderly men in our flight platoon. He was in his late 20s, maybe early 30s. He had a couple kids.
Mm-hmm.
That was a hard time. That was really a hard time, and I really went into a funk after that.
I'm sure that's rough. Really rough.
Yeah, that was a bizarre.
And they recovered the bodies.
Yes. Yeah, they did, and they burned to death.
Yeah. Oh
Uh,
God.
it was just a horrible, horrible thing.
Yeah, that's awful.
I felt like my mind was going to explode.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, how could they be celebrating like this when
Yeah.
they don't even know
Right.
these people were just killed?
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Right.
and they're celebrating there.
Yeah. Wow.
But that's what combat is, right?
Yeah.
I really felt that I lost more than just a partner
Mm-hmm.
and friend. But I really thought that I kind of lost my security blanket also.
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
I trusted his skills so much.
Yeah.
And he was so good.
And you've been through so many close scrapes together. Yeah.
So many.
Yeah.
So many. And he would always, say, how many times do I have to tell you? You're going to be okay. Well, now I wasn't.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I wasn't.
Yeah. So now you had to recruit a new partner.
Yes.
A new door gunner.
Yeah. And poor Scott DeArmond, who became my partner, my second partner.
Mm-hmm.
It was not an easy spot for him to fill because I was not in a good mood.
Yeah.
During that time period. I mean, I was really an angry character.
Yeah.
I had zero tolerance for those wanting to be, come on board with me.
Yeah.
Which was unfair. I mean,
you're a young guy. Your family's not around. You got nobody to talk to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean that's
exactly
rough.
Because I mean there was unspoken. I mean we operated with unspoken words. We operated flawlessly and seamlessly.
Yeah.
But anyway, Scott came along, and he was, in personality-wise, he was about as far opposite of Harper as one could be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Scott was very, very outgoing. I mean, quick to talk.
Mm-hmm.
It was a happy soul.
Yeah.
Very, spirited. Thing they did have in common was he was very professional.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he knew the M60s well. I trained him on the weapons systems, which I mean he just took to naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately for me that he was there because the outcomes could have been very different. But I did realize after probably giving him a hard time for a little while.
Yeah.
He can be my partner. And surprised that he wanted to.
Yeah. Big shoes to fill. Big shoes to fill.
Well, that was unfair.
Yeah.
But he took it all in his stride.
Great.
He did. He took it all in his stride. He had the right personality. He wasn't trying to be Harper. Not at all. That's Scott. That's him. He's his own person.
Yeah. Wow.
And he was also an experienced vet.
Every time Roger's Huey gunship was involved in a firefight, which happened often, he faced a good chance of being shot or having the helicopter he was in shot down. The Huey itself offered no special armor for a door gunner like Roger. Exposed as he was when firing his M60 machine gun, all he had for protection was the small chest plate and back plate body armor he wore, and the area where Roger sat in the helicopter as crew chief and door gunner was directly over the fuel cells under the floor panels. Additional fuel cells were located behind the back wall of the cabin. All the fuel cells were made of rubber and designed to be self-sealing when hit. But often, Roger wondered, how large of a hole were they capable of self-sealing? In total, the Huey Hog carried 242 gallons of JP4 jet fuel, a gasoline-kerosene mix, which, though flammable, had a higher flash point than pure gasoline. Let's move ahead to September.
Yes.
And get into the big mission. And if you could kind of set that up and take us through that.
Yeah.
So you have a new ship by now.
Have a new ship. This ship is a what's called a hog or a pig because it has a 40 millimeter cannon mounted on the nose of the aircraft, which gives it a funny appearance. And it's got this short barreled 40 millimeter cannon sticking out.
Yeah.
Looks like a pig.
Yeah.
I mean, really. So it's called a hog or a pig.
Yeah.
And also it carried two 18-shot rocket pods, one on each side, instead of the normal 7. So this was what they call a heavy gunship. They also called it an aerial artillery platform because of the high amount of ordnance that it had, and the firepower was unbelievable.
Yeah.
The 40 millimeter cannon, it's a hand grenade.
Yeah.
That's popping them out. So when we got that, because we had, I had been running so many missions for SOG, and I knew that was going to continue.
Yeah.
I had the container, the ammo box for the 40 millimeter expanded. I had it increased in height so we could carry more, which we were now overloaded for sure as far as weight goes. But I had it brought up to around 500 rounds.
Wow.
Instead of the normal 250 to 300.
Yeah.
Had it brought up.
So a huge firepower. Yeah.
Yeah. So when we're on station, I mean, you can't go back, rearm, and refuel. I mean, you got you have one shot at it, and you stay until you're Winchester, till you're out.
Yeah.
If need be.
Yeah.
And for the doors, we carried that 1,800 rounds of belted 7.62 for each door. So
wow,
we had a lot of firepower.
Yeah.
That's what I carried on the other gunship also, but it's a lot of firepower.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you how many times we would come back, whether the old gunship or with this one, empty. I mean, everything's expended. I mean, we're just.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean it's a lethal aircraft.
Yeah.
So that was with the new aircraft. We were trying to Mylock was trying to get a team inserted into this particular area of Laos, and we had tried twice before, starting in August. Couldn't get a team in. It was too saturated with NVA. We tried setting up multiple LZs in advance.
Yeah.
Tried doing false insertions and then heading to the second. Couldn't do it. I mean, they were one step ahead of us. The NVA were one step ahead of us every move.
Strange.
And by this time we knew there was a mole somewhere in the system somewhere. We didn't know where, didn't know how.
Yeah.
Because this was happening on a greater frequency.
Yeah.
And so late September 22nd, we got to go ahead to launch the team into this area. So we went out, we were able to get the team in.
The SOG team that went into northwestern Laos consisted of team leader or 1-0 Staff Sergeant Tom Schaff, Sergeant John Smitty Smith, First Lieutenant Mike Armstrong, and 5 Brus mercenaries. After 3 days on the ground, they had collected lots of information on NVA movements and had located truck parks, refuel areas, and large concentrations of North Vietnamese Army troops. The mission was supposed to last 3 days, but as the hours and then days ticked by and helicopter rescue teams were unable to fly because of the weather, Tom Schaff's team on the ground ran out of fuel, were soaked to the bone and exhausted, and thousands of NVA troops, led by expert trackers and dogs, were closing in on them. Roger and his crew members knew that if Schaff and his men weren't rescued soon, they would all be tortured and killed.
We were really far into our range of where we could actually operate. and have enough to get back. We got the team in, and they were supposed to be on the ground for 2 days. And the weather in September, the monsoons up north had moved in, and the weather locked them in. After 2 days, the weather was too bad. We couldn't even attempt to try to get them out. They completed their task.
Yeah.
But they're stuck, and they're being hunted.
Yeah.
They're continuously being hunted. The NVA had special hunt teams, tracking teams, professional hunters, hunter trackers.
Yeah.
And we're sitting back and we can't get them out. So around the 4th day, we tried to penetrate Laos. We couldn't. We couldn't get past Koh Rock when the weather was from the ground all the way up to, beyond 9,000 feet. Just couldn't get in.
Yeah.
That was 4th day, 5th day, same thing.
Wow.
We got in a little further on the 5th day, but had to turn around and come back. And I got to tell you, we were getting severely depressed.
Yeah.
Because we had made that very serious commitment way back early spring that if we put a team in, we will get that team out.
Yeah.
Now we can't get them out.
Yeah.
We can't get in to get them out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And this is really bad.
Yeah.
We knew that the team didn't have food.
Yeah.
They didn't have water.
Wow. Wow.
That they carried with them.
We're talking about 8 guys, 10 guys.
Yeah, there were 8.
8. Okay.
There were 3 Americans and 5 Brus.
Okay.
So the 6th day, we penetrate a little further in, had to turn around and come back.
Wow.
We had the 7th day, we almost couldn't get out of Eagle because of the weather. Nothing was flying, but we were able to get clearance to fly up to Mylock. And we did. We had a hard time getting up there. I was worried that we were going to wander off into the South China Sea and just, lose it.
Yeah.
Or wander up into North Vietnam.
Yeah.
Because, there were places where we were bogged out. Pilot was just running on instruments.
Wow.
So we made it. We got up there, and we got the go ahead that there was a clearing in the area. So we loaded up, headed out, had the feeling, finally, it's like big pressure cooker being released. We're finally able to get into action. We took a lot of anti-aircraft fire going out. We took a tremendous amount. And partway out there, about halfway out there, I'm looking out at the clouds below us and the fog and whatnot. And the sun was up overhead to where we were flying to the right. And it was casting an image, a shadow down in the clouds down below. And the way the sun was and the way the shadow was, there was what looked like perfectly made target.
Wow.
With color, the color.
Yeah.
And our image, our shadow, the helicopter's right smack into it.
Oh, God.
And I thought, oh, this is not a good sign. So I called Scott, and I said, Scott, come
Look
over. You got to see this.
Yeah, yeah.
So he came over and he said, oh, shit, this is not good.
Wow.
This is not a good sign.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we motor along. We get out there. The team's being chased.
Yeah.
Here they had been evaded detection for all this time, but now they're being chased.
Yeah.
We are maybe a mile from the LZ as we're circling and getting our approach. We pass through a semi-cleared area where the terrain, the vegetation was really sparse. And here are a horde of NVA in full combat gear on a dead run.
Wow.
Towards the direction we're going. So I opened up and I'm trying to take down as many as I possibly can. They were so disciplined, they never fired back.
Wow.
They just kept
Going to the objective.
Just going to their objective.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, man, these guys are tough.
Yeah.
They're trained.
Yeah.
We get to the LZ. The team is fighting for their lives. I mean, the NVA are all over them. So Tim Schaff gets a small orange panel out on the LZ. We talked to the pilot, the slick pilot, and he's all set. So we go in ahead of the slick, and we're laying down a heavy gun run. We were just loading it, and there's many of the NVA we could see. A lot we couldn't see because of the jungle, but we can see all the muzzle flashes and everything.
Mm-hmm.
We're taking some hits, and the slick comes in just before he comes to a complete hover above the LZ. He pulls power and pulls away from the LZ, and it's like, what the heck just happened?
Yeah. Now, the slick, we should explain to people, is the rescue.
It's a Huey slick. It's a troop carrier.
Yeah. Okay.
It has a door gun, 2 door guns, M60 door guns, but that's it. It's not what you call the armed helicopter.
Right.
It's strictly a troop carrier. It's going in there to pick up the team.
Yeah.
Normally, you would pick up 2. You would use 2 slicks to pick up the team.
Yeah.
But in this case, it just wasn't
just one
the situation. We had 2 more slicks, but they were what we call chase or emergency slicks. So the pilot was new to this type of operations to SOG. He pulled power and pulled away.
Wow.
And I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, these NVA are just massing around this area, and he pulled away.
God, and the team's on the ground.
The team's on the ground. They're going to be wiped out in a matter of minutes. There is no way they can't avoid it. So Jim Whitman across the radio said, "What the hell just happened?"
Yeah.
And the slick pilot said, "If I stayed there any longer, I would have been shot down.
Yeah.
I can't pick up the team." And Tim Schaff, listening, he's on the ground listening, and he said, "If you don't get us out now, we're never coming out."
Yeah.
Which was true. I mean, there was no question. So our pilot, so Jim, goes on the radio, and he tells the slick pilot, he said, "If you don't go back in right now, I'm going to shoot you down myself."
Wow.
I believe he meant it.
It sounds like it. Yeah.
I think he would have taken it down.
Yeah.
And he said, "Listen, this is what we're going to do."
Yeah.
He's telling the slick, "So we're going to pace alongside of you. We're not going to lead you in. We're going to come in alongside you. We're going to put ourselves between you and the heaviest amount of gunfire coming up.
Yeah.
You've got to get the team. We'll follow you in. We'll hover. We'll come to a hover if we need to."
Yeah.
With the gunship. And I'm thinking, man, we're sitting ducks.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's the only way.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to get these guys out of there.
Yeah.
So we set up the next gun run. And as we're coming in and making our gun run, and we're slowing our speed, we're matching the slick as it's slowing down, we're getting hammered. We are getting hammered so bad.
Yeah.
I can feel us getting ripped apart.
Yeah.
I'm out in the skid, firing away. Scott's doing the same, and I felt like my M60 was operating in slow motion. I mean, I can see these hundreds of bullets coming up at us.
Yeah.
And muzzle flashes, and I can see my M60 spitting out. It's like, I can't get it out fast enough.
Yeah. Somewhere
around that point, my head got snapped back. I didn't, think anything. I mean, I was really intense, focused.
Yeah.
And I felt like everything was happening in slow motion.
Yeah.
Felt like everything. I mean, the ones that I could see every one that I'm dropping.
Wow.
The ones I can't see, I can see the muzzle flashes.
Yeah.
And now I feel that we're starting to shake.
Yeah.
The aircraft, the helicopter is is in bad shape.
Yeah.
Tim got the team on board the slick. The firing was so intense that John Smith, one of the 3 Americans, when he went to get up into the slick, he reached up and grabbed a hold of Mike Armstrong's Car 15 barrel, which was smoking hot. And he pulled himself on board. I mean, he burned up his hand.
Yeah.
But they were right on them. I mean, they were on them, and we almost came to a hover. They were almost on us.
Yeah.
And Slick pulled away. We pulled away, and we're still getting hit. We felt like we hit a speed bump. Turns out we had gotten hit with a 37 millimeter anti-aircraft round. Didn't explode.
Yeah.
And I think it didn't explode because it didn't have enough distance. It hadn't traveled enough distance to arm itself.
Yeah.
That's the only thing, unless it was a dud. That was the only other.
Because you were so close.
Because we were so close to it. I mean, there were 50 calibers that I could hear the 12.7 millimeters going that were banging on us. So we got out of there. The Slick calls a mayday. Well, he was right. He was going to get shot down, and he did.
Yeah.
He called a mayday. We're trying to keep up with the Slick, still trying to protect it.
Yeah.
And so we're following it. He's losing altitude, he's losing power, we're losing power. I can feel that our aircraft felt like it was going to shake itself apart. I mean, I knew the main rotor was really severely damaged because it had that low frequency serious vibration that you could feel in your body, your whole body. I could feel the tail rotor, which is high frequency vibrations when it gets damaged. It had to be seriously damaged because my feet were tingling. All the alarms are going off and lights are flashing. The Slick crash landed short distance from this open field area. In the open field area, there were 4 longhouses, North Vietnamese longhouses. We were in the middle of a high concentration of North Vietnamese. It's like a headquarters area.
Yeah.
We dumped everything we had into those longhouses before we crashed. We sent the rockets into it. We sent the 40 millimeter. The buildings are exploding. There are NVA coming out of the buildings, and like I mentioned in the book, it's like ants coming out of an anthill.
Yeah.
And Scott and I are taking down as many as we can, and we crash.
Yeah.
We crash into a bamboo thicket. And then we were on fire. Covey called, said Hare lead. Our call sign was Hare, like Hare, like a rabbit.
Yeah.
Covey, Pat Watkins was riding in Covey. He said, Hare lead, you're on fire. And I looked back, and sure enough, I mean, there's flames coming out of the engine compartment and out of the cone, the tail cone. So, we're in really bad shape.
Yeah.
We crashed, didn't explode.
Wow.
Which was another miracle in itself.
Yeah.
Didn't explode. The some of the damage that we sustained, I suspect that our fuel control unit, which is like a fuel injection unit for a vehicle.
Yeah.
Fuel control unit, I suspect, got hit and subsequently stopped pumping fuel into the engine. I mean, that's the only thing that I can imagine, because if it would continue pumping fuel while we crashed, it would have just blown up.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm guessing, I have no way of knowing, but I'm guessing that was it. So we're on the ground. I got knocked unconscious for a few moments. When I came to and started putting things together in my head, I look down and I see my watch. I had a Seiko watch laying on the floor, broken with a broken band. And next to it is St. Christopher medal that I wore around my neck, laying right next to it. No chain. I don't know where the chain went. My bracelet that I had from Dow, the brass bracelet, it was gone. I don't know where it went, what happened to it. So I grabbed the watch and I grabbed my St. Christopher medal and put it in my pocket, took my M60 and started our standard procedure, which we had practiced many times before for such an event.
Yeah.
I would go in the co-pilot side, the left side, turn off all the radios, zero them all out. Jim Whitman would grab the maps and any of the documents, code books and whatnot. He would grab them. And then I would open up the avionics compartment in the front and just shoot up the radios as much as I could.
Yeah.
To destroy as much as I could. Scott would go into the compartment just behind the cargo compartment and grab the survival kit.
Yeah.
It was in a pack, like a medic's pack type of thing.
Yeah.
And had various survival materials in it in case we need to make a run for it.
Yeah.
Which we didn't know at this point if we have to run or what.
Yeah.
While this is going on, our gunship, our wing ship, made a pass by and a gun run on the NVA that were charging us, and left. And it was basically running out of fuel, running low on fuel. It left.
Yeah.
We thought we were going to have to make a run for it. Scott and I are firing through the bamboo in the direction where we could hear these NVA charging and where we knew they were coming from. And they, in turn, they were firing back in our direction, not knowing exactly where we were, but had an idea. Some of it was going really high. Others was off to the side. But we could hear the effect of the impact of our shooting on the NVA. All of a sudden, there's a helicopter hovering above us, and out come 4 McGuire rigs. And it's just a rope with a sewn-in web seat in the bottom, 125-foot length of rope with a cement block on the end. And, and right after the ropes come out, here comes Dick Crawford flying out of the slick and landing on the ground. He always,
and he's the doctor.
Yeah. He always claimed that he fell out. That when they were getting shot at, he lost his grip and he fell out. He said because nobody in their right mind would ever get him on the ground in that situation. I don't believe him.
Yeah.
I think he was acting on impulse.
Yeah.
On training, on just reaction.
Yeah.
He didn't know. Nobody knew if any of us were dead, wounded, what the situation was. But anyway, he's on the ground now. We've got 4 ropes, 4 McGuire rigs, and 5 people. This isn't going to work too well.
Yeah.
So anyway, he helped the co-pilot Chapman get into his. Chapman, had never used a McGuire rig. He didn't know anything about them. He thought he just thought there was so much rope. Yeah. He cut his.
Oh no! Yeah.
And when he realized his error, he retied it so that he could sit in the woven seat. It's just shorter now.
Yeah.
And anyway, Crawford tied himself to me, and we got lifted up out of there. Just as we're coming off the ground, before we cleared the bamboo is about 100 feet. Before we cleared the bamboo, NVA come running into the clearing below us with their AK-47s on full auto, and they're just shooting up at us.
Wow.
I still had my M60, and I had a length of belted ammo. Scott, who his weapon of choice was he had an M79 grenade launcher with one round in it.
Yeah.
Only takes one. I fired at the NVA below us and dropped them. Scott, they were continuing. Scott fired off his M79. It exploded in the clearing. It was just enough, I guess, to give us a couple moments to get out of there.
Wow.
And my M60 jammed after around 6 rounds or so.
Jeez.
And so I just dropped it. It was useless.
Yeah.
Plus, it's heavy.
Yeah. I was going to say, how are you holding that?
Just one hand, because you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, have to hang on to the rope. You
Yeah.
have to hang on to the McGuire rig, because if you don't hang on, you're going to flip over
Yeah.
and drop off.
Yeah.
And Crawford would have gone with me.
Yeah. So that's a tremendous weapon that you're.
It is. It is. I mean, we had it stripped down. We had the bipods removed. We had the big buttstock removed. It was stripped down as much as it can, but it was still. And it was useless now.
Yeah.
This extreme angle that I was firing with and hanging onto the rope, it jammed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I let it go. Crawford used to give me a hard time and said the reason he's deaf in his right ear is because I was firing that damn M60 alongside of his head. And I would always remind him, you may be deaf, but you're still alive.
Still alive. That's right, man. Yeah.
So we cleared.
Wow.
We cleared the trees. And the adventure is not over. It is far from over.
Yeah.
We continued to get shot at the entire distance. We had a 45-minute ride back, and traveling at a slow speed because of all the drag that's being caused.
Yeah.
And also the altitude. Eventually, we're up to around 8,000 feet.
Wow.
And it's cold.
Yeah. Yeah.
Windy.
Yeah. Yeah.
My arm, my left arm, after we're up about 15 minutes, and we're getting air bursts around us constantly getting these big cannon fire air bursts. Look like a scene out of World War II.
Wow.
With the air bursts.
Wow. And you've got no protection whatsoever.
No.
Yeah.
No protection
Completely
whatsoever.
exposed.
Neither does the slick.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all vulnerable. We're
Yeah.
just putting along around 55 miles an hour, 60 miles in the air. I mean, that's almost standing. So all of a sudden, my left arm just dropped. It just went dead. And right around the same time, I realized that I didn't have any feeling in my legs. And my first thought is I must have got a shrapnel in the back and didn't realize it, or a bullet or something.
Yeah.
And I'm looking down at Crawford to see if I've got blood dripping on him.
Yeah.
And I don't see anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on. But I'm hanging on with one hand. And it's not long before that hand starts cramping up.
Yeah.
And I can't let go.
Yeah. Because that's you and Crawford. Yeah.
My other arm's dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're a long ways from home, a long ways from the border. The closest outpost was going to be southeast of Khe Sanh. I mean, it was nobody at Khe Sanh. It's totally abandoned.
Yeah.
So, and I'm hurting big time. My head feels like it's going to explode, and my back and my body is like one big giant pain. I mean, I'm just hurting bad, and my arm is cramping, and I'm thinking that I'm going to end up, dropping out of this McGuire rig, and I'll be taking Crawford with me, the 9,000 feet, and thinking that my family's never going to know.
Yeah. What happened?
They're never going to get my body.
Yeah.
And like I say, I'm hurting.
Yeah.
So I'm reaching like my limit, and I thought to myself, and I said a short prayer, and I just said, Lord, something to the effect of, Lord, if you choose for me to survive this day, I will never, ever doubt your existence again. I no sooner got those words out of my mouth that I felt like a blanket was dropped over me.
Wow.
Like a warm blanket.
Wow.
And with that, I mean, I was warm.
Yeah.
I mean,
and you're cold.
I was freezing.
You're out 8,000, 9,000 feet. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And my arm doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm holding the rope
Yeah.
and I can feel me holding it, but it's not cramped.
Wow.
I mean, it's like nothing. I'm just hanging on.
Wow.
My body's not hurting. My
Yeah.
head's not pounding.
Yeah.
And I'm looking around and it's like, wow, this is really
Yeah.
this is really surreal.
This is
I mean,
profound.
I'm
Yeah.
like in a different mind altogether.
Yeah.
I wasn't afraid anymore.
Yeah.
I wasn't uncomfortable, and I'm just enjoying the ride. I'm just
Wow.
observing. I'm watching the explosions taking place, but it's all like it was like watching a movie,
Yeah.
you know, like an out of body type of thing.
Right.
And I was fine till we got back inside of Vietnam and they dropped us off.
Wow.
So interesting thing when we got back to the Marine outpost where they dropped us down, the pilot, who was also fresh, first time out with SOG. First time. He was good though.
Yeah.
He was a
Yeah.
young pilot. He's only like 20 years old.
Jeez.
First time out.
Yeah.
And he misjudged the altitude and the amount we were hanging below, and he kind of dragged us through the concertina wire coming onto the base. Well, not us.
Yeah.
Actually, it was Crawford.
Yeah.
But for some miraculous reason, he didn't get tore up. His clothes got sliced.
Yeah.
He got a few scratches, but
Yeah.
not even what you call cuts.
Gee.
Um,
Wow.
and he
Wow.
could have been shredded.
Oh
It could have
God.
been
Oh yeah.
horrible.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And then when he put us down, as soon as he put us down, the aircraft ran out of fuel. The slick ran out of fuel. It totally ran out of fuel.
Oh my God.
And he had to do a flared,
Yeah.
landing. Of course, he was only 100 feet off the ground, but
Yeah.
ran out of fuel. And I found out years later, just a few years ago, that when he was hovering above us, before we got into the rigs,
Mhm.
when he first came to a hover, his low fuel warning light came on. And that means 20 minutes of fuel.
Yeah.
Now we're 45 minutes of flight time and we're not moving yet. They said he doesn't, to this day, he doesn't understand what happened, how that could be.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
anyway,
Wow.
when he set us down and he looked over at us, when I tried to get up, I couldn't get up.
Yeah.
Because I was paralyzed. My arm was useless. My legs were dead. And he thought that he broke my legs when he set me down, set
Mhm.
us down.
Mhm.
All these years, and this is all these years up until about 3 or 4 years ago when I talked to him
Mhm.
for the first time, he thought that he broke my legs.
Wow.
Because we all separated right
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I ended up in the hospital. Me and Scott ended up in the hospital. And the pilot, the slick pilot, he's from a different company. He was from the 101st Airborne.
Yeah.
But there was no direct interactions between the gun company and the slick company.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So he never knew the truth all these years.
Wow.
He lived with. He told me that he lived with the guilt that
Gosh.
he was responsible for breaking my legs. I said, you were responsible for saving my life.
Yeah, buddy. Complete opposite. Yeah.
Complete opposite. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Wow.
it was quite a miraculous
That is a miraculous.
in
Wow.
so many ways.
Wow.
And
Wow.
everyone that was involved with that, everyone that had monitored the radios that were going on, communications, say that there was one miracle after another, after another, after another. And just know
Wow.
how
Wow.
we came through it. All of us.
Yeah.
Even the team members, none of them even got a scratch.
Really? Wow. Wow. That's just incredible. Wow.
It is. It is just incredible. It's just incredible.
Wow.
And,
So I imagine you're a spiritual man as a result.
in my own way, I keep it to myself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I am. Nobody could shake my
No.
spiritual belief.
Yeah, not after an experience like that. Right. No.
I'd be too afraid to put it to a challenge.
Yeah.
No, that's a personal, my personal.
Of course.
But yes, that I have no explanation. I just know what happened.
Yeah.
And know what happened to me.
Wow. Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty, and all those that were involved, like I say, all felt the same way, that there had to be divine intervention at some level. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Too many things.
Right. Too many things. Wow. Everything kind of fell in your favor.
They did.
Yeah.
They did. In the worst of times. And even with taking a shot to the head, and I didn't realize it at the time. And before we crashed, Scott, our communications inside the aircraft was destroyed. We couldn't talk.
Yeah.
So he was pointing to me and pointing to the side of my head. And when I reached up, and I felt this big gash in the side of my helmet, a half-inch difference. I mean, it would have, even though it's a ballistic helmet, I mean, it can only take so much.
Sure. Wow.
But yeah, I mean, just one thing after another.
Was there a long recovery after that, or?
No, actually, when I was in the hospital, they did the x-rays. I was still paralyzed.
Yeah.
And they couldn't find anything visible. And the doctors ultimately thought that it was a spinal bruise, a bruising to the spine, or to the spinal cord, more.
Right.
And that hopefully in time the feelings would start coming back.
Yeah.
Well, sometime during the night, that first night in the hospital, I started feeling my arm started hurting, something awful.
Yeah.
When your arm falls asleep and it's come back.
Oh yeah.
I can tell you, it never felt so good have that pain.
Wow. Like I still have feeling.
The next day, the same happened with my legs.
Yeah.
They hurt, something awful. But boy, I'll tell you, that was a good feeling.
Wow.
Yeah. So it came back. I mean, I got I get a lot of aches and pains and all that kind of stuff, and arthritis in the neck and in the back.
Yeah.
But no, I can deal with that.
Yeah.
I can deal with that,
Yeah. Amazing.
And I also had, from that point on, we'd been plagued with migraines.
Yeah.
But again, when I first got set on the ground at that Marine outpost, and I realized how serious my injuries might have been, I thought, oh shit, I'm paralyzed.
Yeah.
And I no sooner said that than I thought, you idiot, you're alive. You ungrateful.
That's right.
And then
you can't get everything.
Okay.
You can't have everything.
You can't have everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
So yeah, a lot of emotions go through your head.
There were lots of heroes that day, including Staff Sergeant Tim Schaff and the rest of his SOG team. But perhaps the bravest of them was Dick Doc Crawford, who, when Roger's Huey gunship crashed, with NVA bullets flying from all directions, jumped 25 feet from a hovering Huey slick to help rescue the wounded men. Doc Crawford maintains that he fell out, but Roger believes that because Crawford was a dedicated medic, he jumped out to treat the wounded men. Men that to this day and beyond will always be bonded together.
That was our most intense of all the missions.
Yeah.
That one was, but we got him out. We got the guy.
Yeah. Well, I saw Mike Armstrong at SOAR. He was there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Brew.
He's
Brew, right? He calls himself Brew.
Well, yeah, but he spoke the language.
Yeah. He was telling me. He's like he's gone back and he's spent time and he's studied it and.
Yeah. He's quite an amazing guy.
Yeah, incredible guy. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's good. He's good.
Yeah.
And he also told me back in 2011 when I was brought into SOAR that I asked him about Tao and the people, and sadly, Mike said that his understanding is that Tao's village. There were 2 Brew villages there at Mylock. When the NVA came through, they killed everybody, every living thing, all the Brew that were still there in both villages, all the animals, children, everything that they just decimated, which was heartbreaking.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah, Mike spoke the language.
Yeah, I want to get him on the podcast. Such an interesting guy. Yeah, I spoke to him a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. He was one of the guys you rescued.
Yeah, Mike Armstrong. He was a lieutenant at the time.
Yeah.
He was on the ground.
Wow.
And Tim Schaff, who was the 1-0, the team leader, has some interesting insight on Mike being on the team.
Yeah.
That made Tim very uncomfortable, not because of skill, but because of size. Because Mike is a big man.
Yeah.
And Tim said, "How in the hell was I going to cover up these big giant footsteps, these footprints and things?" But it's pretty funny.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty funny.
So a couple months later, you leave.
Yeah.
Your tour is over.
Yeah.
And the transition from Vietnam to stateside, I mean, from such an incredible, intense, life-changing experience like that to come back to normal life, it just must be mind-blowing.
Yeah, it was very hard. And it wasn't normal life for me.
Yeah.
Normal life was being in a gunship.
Yeah.
That was my normal life.
Yeah.
And going from being in the military in a combat zone to being dumped on the street in a matter of hours.
Yeah.
Was not a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the military's infinite wisdom, they didn't take in consideration that, we may need some decompression time and
lots of decompression time.
Decompression time and support.
Yeah.
Yeah. I found myself, one of the darkest days of my life was on a morning that I was released from the military down at Fort Dix, New Jersey. I'm standing outside. It's November 30th, freezing cold.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't give me a overcoat. I had my winter greens on.
Yeah.
But with no overcoat.
Yeah.
And I had been awake for the better part of several days.
Yeah.
So my resistance and my mental, acuteness and wellness was probably at a very low point.
Sure.
And I'm standing there waiting for family to come down from Connecticut to pick me up. And I'm standing there and I'm in a uniform, but I'm not a soldier anymore. They made that clear. I signed out.
Wow.
I'm supposed to be a civilian, but I'm not a civilian.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here in a uniform.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like to be a civilian. I've been in intense training for the past 3 years.
Yeah.
And I felt like a man without a country.
Yeah.
I lost my personal knife my dagger that was awarded to me.
Yeah.
That was taken. And that was always part of me.
Yeah.
I mean, I would always reach down and it's there, that was gone. I basically lived with my 38. Before that was a 45, Colt 45 military. I slept with that on my chest. and I slept with the 38 on my chest every night.
Yeah.
And now, what am I?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do now?
Yeah.
How am I supposed to act?
Yeah.
I really felt alone. I really, really felt alone.
Wow.
So the transition was a tough one.
Yeah.
It was really tough. I didn't expect the amount of negativity.
Yeah.
Towards soldiers.
Yeah.
I mean, I experienced some of it.
Yeah.
Before I went to Vietnam, I experienced some.
Yeah.
But I didn't, I was proud.
Of course.
I had known I had done some amazing things.
Absolutely.
That very few people on the planet have done.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to work with some of the most amazing, incredible, brave, talented men, military people that the earth has ever seen.
Yeah.
But that's, nothing.
Yeah.
Right now.
No, people were just
nothing.
Dismissing that completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just nothing.
Yeah.
Fortunately for me, my saving grace was that the person that was going to be my wife was still waiting.
Wow.
That for me was a lifesaver.
Mm-hmm.
Because I truly believe that she gave me a focus besides myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that she was very tolerant and very understanding.
Yeah.
And also that, she was a fighter. She would not allow me to do stupid things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Sure.
If I didn't have that support, I don't know what may have happened.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah.
I've always felt that she was responsible for keeping me alive.
Wow.
And
a lot of people didn't have that support.
No, that's right. A lot of people, and a lot of people you and I know, burned through their first wife.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And they know it was their fault.
Of course they do. So that's more guilt. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was very, very fortunate. And then we got married just February 1st.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
Got engaged.
So
yeah,
right
we
away.
Got engaged. Yeah. And well, she's responsible for that. She said, I'm not going to wait any longer. I waited while you were gone for a year.
Yeah.
I don't want to wait. And it was the best thing that could have happened. So it really was.
Yeah.
It really was. Because I was still pretty lost.
I'm sure. How do you reconcile that? I mean, to have had such an amazing experience, a life-changing experience, so intense, such strong bonds with the people that you're with, and in a place that is so completely different. How do you just come back and flip a switch?
Hard.
You can't do it.
No, you can't. It was hard.
Yeah.
And I couldn't talk to anybody about it either.
Yeah, that makes it even worse. Yeah.
It made it worse.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any connection with the SF guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And when did that start, Roger? When did you reestablish the connection?
Early 2011.
Mm-hmm.
On a Sunday evening. I had just gone to bed. It's probably 10 o'clock at night. Phone rings, and I answer the phone. And the person on the other end said, is this Roger Lockshier? And I said, yeah, who's calling? And he said, well, I'd like to know, is this Roger Lockshier that served with the 101st Airborne Black Angels? Now, there's only a handful of people in the world that know that group.
Yeah.
So I knew this had to be legit.
Yeah.
But still, all the red flags are going off in my head. And I said, yeah, it is. He said, oh, man. He said, this is Scott. This is Scott the Armin.
Wow.
So we proceeded to have a wonderful conversation.
Yeah.
He called me because he's been involved with VVA, Vietnam Veterans of America.
Yeah.
Right from the onset.
Yeah.
And he was, at this time, he was home recovering from a knee surgery operation. And he was online doing some kind of search. And he came across a site where some people from Special Forces were looking for me. They had my name.
Yeah.
They didn't have Scott's name. They had Whitman's name.
Mm-hmm.
But they were looking for the crew that participated in an event that took place on September 28th, 1968. So with that, he put me in contact with Crawford,
Wow.
who we were friends back then.
Yeah.
And so I talked to Crawford. We were on the phone, and to know this guy is to know this guy.
Yeah.
He's passed away now. He passed away a couple years ago. He was the poster boy for bull in a china shop.
Yeah.
He was gruff.
Yeah.
He was rough. He had zero tolerance for most things. An extremely intelligent fella.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was trying to reconnect with us
Mm-hmm.
because he said that we had been put in for some awards way back in the day, but something happened and they just disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time, he was working with Senator Bill Nelson out of Florida.
Oh, yeah.
He was working through his office.
Yeah.
And so now this is out of the blue, right? I mean, 40 odd years after the fact.
Yeah.
And he said, I need you to give me your Social Security number. I said, what? He said, I need you to give me your Social Security number.
Yeah.
I said, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, really.
It's gotta happen. He said, I got to get it to Senator Nelson.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, not that I don't trust you.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't trust you.
Really? I've seen you in 40 years, buddy. Yeah.
Right. I mean, he was a character way back then.
Yeah.
Never mind what's happened in between. Anyway, long story short, Senator Nelson sent me from his office a bunch of papers and documents and all this sort of thing, where I could see it was legit.
Shit,
and I wasn't sending to Crawford direct.
Right.
They were going to Senator Nelson.
Yeah.
Long story short, I was awarded a Distinguished Flying Cross.
Wow.
For that mission.
Yeah.
As was Scott. Jim Whitman received a Silver Star. Unfortunately, he had passed away around 2009 in a private plane accident.
Oh.
It's sad after all he had been through.
Yeah.
And make it matters even worse, he was returning home from his daughter's wedding.
Oh.
And so anyway, he received it posthumously. His son and daughter, one of his daughters, were there at SOAR to receive it.
Mm-hmm.
And also I received a Bronze Star for my work with MyLock.
Yeah. Wow.
During that
well
time.
Deserved.
So that's how I got reconnected.
Yeah.
And 2011, when I reconnected with SOA, it opened up a whole new world for me.
Sure.
A world that was hidden for all these years.
Yeah.
And now I had people that could validate my experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Before then,
I
mean, I was sworn to secrecy for 20 years. And then if I were to come out after 25 years and tell people I know, oh, yeah, did I ever tell you I was?
Sure.
Right.
Sure, Roger.
Yeah, sure you were. Yeah, sure you were.
I was hanging from a rope, and 8,000 feet.
Sure you were.
Yeah,
sure you were.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it filled a gap in my life that was really missing and aching.
Mm-hmm.
So it really, that triggered the thoughts of writing the book again, because I had considered writing it several times, not as a book, but more as notes for my children and my grandchildren. My sons didn't know what I had been involved with.
Yeah.
My wife really didn't know. She had some,
Yeah.
dibs and dabs here and there, but
Right.
didn't
Right.
really know.
Right.
So, connecting in 2011 with all these people really set things in motion. It really was a healing
Wow.
for me
Wow.
and a justification and validation. I mean, can
Yeah.
you imagine going for over 40 years
No.
without someone being able to validate
No.
something that was significant in your life?
No. Crazy.
So
Crazy.
yeah, I mean, it really set a lot of things into motion, a lot of healing in motion for sure.
And now you're writing another book, you said.
I am.
Uh-huh.
I am. I'm just about done with it.
Fantastic.
I'm hoping to release it in January.
Okay. Well, I hope when the book comes out, we get to do this again, because
I hope so.
This has been fantastic, Roger. Thank you so much. Oh, and I wanted to, there was a quote from Lieutenant Colonel Smith. The Army took us out of combat, but they never considered taking the combat out of us.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a very, pretty profound statement.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And I found it so profound.
Yeah.
Hearing it from him,
Yeah.
who was a career Special Forces soldier,
Yeah.
officer,
Yeah.
high ranking. The exact same feeling
Yeah. Yeah.
that I had. It's exactly the same. And I wouldn't have thought that,
Yeah.
he would be thinking in the same.
Well, I speak to, vets from Afghanistan, Iraq, World War II even, and everybody has that experience, it seems.
Yeah.
Everybody has that experience. And it seems as though, there's more understanding of that, but it's been a long time coming. And it's still, I think a lot of people don't, just don't get it. And
I think a lot has been learned what people like myself, I mean, I'm not unique to it. I mean, we all, went through that. The, American legions didn't want us in their realm because we weren't from a real war,
Oh, God.
The VFWs,
Shame.
that's not, I mean, it's unfair to make a blanket statement, but that was
No,
general.
I know. No, Vietnam was the war of shame.
Yeah.
And to hear these stories now, like yours, of such incredible dedication and bravery, I mean, it just sort of shatters that idea.
Yeah. So it's interesting, and I think the public and the military has learned a lot as a result. I mean, they still repeat some of the same stupid mistakes.
Yeah.
But at least they've come a long way. At least they honor the Afghan vets when they come home. They don't have to hide.
Right.
And that's a good thing.
It's a similar experience in a lot of ways.
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Unfortunately. So as a country, we still have a lot to learn, but we're learning, I think. Yeah, which is the hopeful sign. Yeah.
Yes, it is. This has been really, really great, Ralph. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Roger. God bless you and your family, and thanks for sharing, what you've been through, and thanks for your service to our country.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Amazing on so many levels and important on so many levels. And I urge everybody to read the book, and I'll look forward to your new book. Let's do this again when it comes out.
I hope so. That'll be great.
The Vietnam War claimed the lives of more than 58,000 American service members and wounded more than 150,000. And for vets like Roger, who served in Vietnam and survived unspeakable horrors, coming home offered its own kind of trauma. Not only were the vets treated as participants in a failed, brutal, and unwanted war, when they returned from Vietnam, they were met with governmental indifference and GI benefits that were almost non-existent. This might help explain why, according to the National Library of Medicine, over 50,000 of them have committed suicide, and why Vietnam vets comprise over 10% of an estimated 630,000 homeless in America today. It's a legacy that needs to be corrected. Hopefully, Roger Lockshier's excellent book, We Saved SOG Souls, 101st Airborne Missions in Vietnam and Laos during the Vietnam War, will help change our perception of the war. As Roger states at the end of his book, and I quote, "The warriors involved in SOG were among the bravest and best this country has ever put into battle. It's time to honor these special men, including Bronze Star, Purple Heart, two-time Distinguished Flying Cross recipient, and author Roger Lockshier. He's today's hero behind the headlines."
Heroes Behind Headlines. Executive producer Ralph Pizzullo. Produced and engineered by Mike Dawson. Music provided by Extreme Music. For exclusive content, please join our Patreon group at patreon.com/heroesbehindheadlines.